Tennessee's Chris Brazell checks the boxes of a first-round pick and an elite deep threat wide receiver.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Damian, Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst for Bleacher Report. That's Keith Sanchez. He's the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with the LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you, Chris Brazell II, the big explosive wide receiver for the Tennessee Volunteers. We want to break down the pros, the cons, and explaining the grade and the comps that we have for Chris Brazell. 6'4", roughly 200 pounds, came into the combine, Keith, and ran a 4.37. Just showcasing that top end speed, that explosiveness, that long speed that he brings to the table so well. Keith, let's talk about Chris Brazell. This isn't your average Josh Heupel Tennessee wide receiver. Keith, this is a guy that when I turned on the tape and watched him, he can run routes. Like he know, like when you ask him to do more than just running go routes and that just taking the top off the defense. Yes, he does it well, but he runs more routes than just the go route. When you watched him, Keith, what were some of his strengths as a route runner?
Yeah, I think his ability to mix and match tempos, right? Like I always say this, right? You have some wide receivers that go nowhere really fast. I've watched maybe 100 practices of Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, right? It wasn't every practice they ran a route as fast as they can because that's not what it's about, right? It's about getting to a spot, but also you still have the defensive back, right? Because you want to give them different tempos, different speeds, right? So that way, because they're trying to stay in phase with you. But if you slow down a little bit, you can create separation. If you speed up, you can create separation, right? There's more than one ways to create separation, and I believe that Chris Brazell, he understands that. Him being a 4.37 athlete, I think that's spectacular, right? Like, because it allows you to be like, okay, you can be a vertical threat, but I look at him, DP, and I view him in the light of, okay, mixing and matching the vertical speed that is proven, right? It was on film, and it's proven that you have it. You ran a 4.37. Mixing that with his ability to run routes, and I still think there's some development there. Are you talking about a really good number 2 wide receiver, right? In the NFL, or is the ability for him to touch the number 1 role, right? Like if you continue to flesh this out, because I think he tested at the combine at 198, right? And if the 198 allowed him to run a 4.37, I might be like, look, big boy, hey, put 10 more pounds on, and if you run a 4.39 at 210 pounds, I am a-okay with that, right? That's plenty fast enough. And then now you have this young man who is we talk about the DK Metcalfs, the AJ Browns, and no, he won't be 230 pounds, but still being 210, 215 and running a sub 4.40, you still put yourself in that elite combination of being 6'4", 210 pounds and running a sub 4.40. Like that's elite categories, that's elite measurables. And then what can you do and what can you flush out with it?
No, 100%, Keith. I think that's the impressive thing, because I know it's easy to helmet scout him and think, okay, it's just another Deontay Thornton Jr. part 2, right? But Deontay Thornton was running.
I mean, listen, this is how it goes, right? LSU had bad quarterbacks until we had good ones, right? And meaning that, right? Like we were known as the school that we had everything but good quarterbacks until we had good quarterbacks, right? And now we have 2 Heisman winners, and nobody talks about the fact that LSU had bad
2 Heisman winners and 2 top 3 picks. It's crazy.
Yeah. So you have to allow, situations to evolve at the end of the day, and things change. And I agree with you, because I know where you were going with this, is that, like and we'll be transparent that the Jalen Hyatt, like, I like Jalen Hyatt. I didn't love him, right? Because of how we started this segment of the route running portion of this, like, him being tight hip. Chris is a lot more fluid and smooth in sinking his hips, and maybe that's what you wanted me to get into in the route running part. This is a young man that even though he's 6'4", he can drop his hips and create separation. And when you run a 4-3-4-4, defensive backs are always concerned about you getting vertical past them, right? And if you can sink your hips instantly and run a speed out or something like that, right? And just be able to turn over and flip over, then that's an easy 10 yards, right? That's an easy 10 yards for your quarterback, and he know that that's a go-to move for you. So, yeah, I mean, with Chris, I we talk about guys with ceilings, right? And we talk about like ceilings and floors and like, oh, what this guy could be. To me, I think there's a clear path of what Chris Brazell could be, right? Like some guys, we stretch it a little bit and be like, man, he could do this if he just works on this. And I think maybe that's where you were going with Dante Thornton, right? Like, man,
100%.
Worked on this and then got this together and then did a little bit of this. He could be a good wide receiver. I don't think Chris has to go as far to get to achieve that goal of being a good wide receiver too. No,
not at all, Keith. I tweeted out a clip of him versus I think it was against Devin Moore in Florida. He's big smooth to me, man. 6'4", 200 pounds. And like you talk about, that ability to sink his hips at the top of his routes and work back down the stem. And he understands, like you said, it's one thing to be fast and be explosive and know that's one of your best traits. But it's another to understand how that dictates and impacts the defensive coverage you're going to face. And seeing when you get cushion, like, use that vertical sim. Sell that fade route, that goal route, that vertical route.
Because, I was going to say, like, everybody was watching, right? And when you ran that 4-3, so you enter the NFL and people saying he can run. There were NFL corners that were watching, right? Like when you walk into week 3 of football, the NFL season, the defensive back coach is going to say, watch this guy because he can run, right? Like that's what he's going to tell his defensive back. So you already know you kind of have that baked into your back pocket that you may see a lot more bell technique than a normal wide receiver. Like they're probably not going to be sitting flat-footed. So then now you can work off of that, right?
Absolutely. No, 100%. And I think, and then for those who know, does the speed translate? Turn on the Georgia tape. Like he took that game over. You know what I mean? Turn on the Georgia tape, man. And the crazy thing is no slight to his quarterback, but he wasn't catching passes from Arch Manning and Fernando Mendoza and Lenore. He didn't have one of the upper echelon quarterbacks. He had a guy that transferred from App State in Joey Aguilar that most people didn't know about, right? Like, so you think about him catching passes from a legitimate NFL caliber quarterback that people view as a top 2 to 3 round pick. And for some of those, like Mendoza's QB1 in this class, right? And even if you don't think he's a QB1 in most classes, he's still a first rounder in most classes as a quarterback prospect. So, like, being able to catch accurate passes in a different style offense, like Deontay Thornton was asked to do one main thing: run fast and play the ball. You know what I mean? Like, Chris Brazell runs comeback routes, hitches. Don't get me wrong. I have the numbers to back it up, guys. I know 22% of his routes per Summer Sports, they were go routes. I get it. Like, that's what they wanted him to do, take the top off. Because also he was a guy, had that gravitational pull that opened up space underneath for the underneath weapons, the tight ends, the slot receivers, things of that nature. But 18.6% of his routes were curl routes. 11.6% of his routes were post routes. He ran crossing routes at almost 11%. He ran in and out routes, I believe, at almost 6%, right? Roughly between 6% between the both of them. He did different things where typically that wasn't the route tree that we saw from Tennessee wide, especially Jalen Hyatt. It was line you up to the boundary, have you play off ball, get you free releases, and let you outrun guys. And that led him to a Biletnikoff, right? So I look at Chris Brazell, Keith. I think he sets guys up well. Even though he's fast, he's well-tempoed and paced. And I just love how he attacks defensive back, especially in off coverage. And he's got enough at the line of scrimmage to where he can get free from press with his feet first, hand second. He knows how to he's got enough technique to win at the line of scrimmage if he times out the punches and everything else. And again, yes, his A trait, Keith, I think we both will agree, it's the elite speed. It's that top end speed, take the top off the defense, make you have to worry about me every time. If you play cover 3, your corner, that deep thirds, he got nothing to worry about but the deep thirds, right? But if you get a chance and I can run that post route, I'm gonna take it. You know what I mean? I'm gonna try to get out of his zone, work into that safety zone to see if I can outstride that safety. And he's got good ball skills too, man. This is I feel like he doesn't get enough credit in his wide receiver class. You know, we talk about Tyson and Tate. I'm gonna say this, Keith. I'm gonna say it before we transition. Chris Brazell has a chance of having the highest ceiling out of any receiver in this class in terms of once he gets into an NFL offense and he continues to develop. We got Cardinal Tate very high. You talking about, hey, we fast forward in 5 years that Chris Brazell is a more impactful wide receiver than Cardinal Tate? I wouldn't be surprised at that at all.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to make that statement or something similar to it. I was just going to say he has just as good a shot to be successful in the NFL, right? Like at a high-end player as any of these other wide receiver prospects. DP, you know what time it is, man. It's time for us to transition. We talked about the pros, right? And we talked about how Chris Brazell is flying under the radar. Let's talk about these concerns, right? What are the people saying? What do we see on film that may be concerning about Chris Brazell's game? What does he have to develop? Once he gets to the NFL, we'll discuss that coming up next.
College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night from early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts. There's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. Rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits your read. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. And you can look at the odds around your favorite team. And if they're in season, you can go ahead and go safe, go bold, and ride with the team you've been following all season long. It's your parlay, your style, and now with even more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com right now to get started. Again, that's FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not just you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can now buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when the momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and clear swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures, commissions, merchant, and swap firm. Join the Everyday Club now with us, though, with the code MARCH and get your first month free. If you sign up before tip-off today for the NCAA tournament, you can compete against us in our men's and women's bracket pools on Discord. The winner in each will get $100 in Locked On merch. The rest of us can commiserate in the members-only chats as our brackets are blown up. And as a member of the club, you will get an ad-free version of this show and podcast. Again, it's all free for a month with the code MARCH at LockedOnNFLDraft.supercast.com. Keith, when you look at the concerns for Chris Brazell II, where do they start for you heading into the NFL?
Man, so it's funny because where I'm going to go with this, I'm going to sound very similar to a Tennessee player we just did, and Jamal McCoy. And I think the concerns are just simply wanting to see more, right? And meaning that what Tennessee had him do, right? You don't get the full painted picture of what he can and can't do. And so I think that's the part that leaves a gray area of, and maybe this is where you jump into the private workouts, right? Like, getting into these private workouts, seeing exactly what he can do. But the way Tennessee utilizing the way they operate their offense is so specific, and they do the same repetitive things. Like, it's truly a system, right? Like it's their system that they operate, and you play in it, right? And so I think it's just more so making sure that everything, right? Like in just those, because they run such wide splits, right? And if you put them in more condensed situations or situations where you're talking about the defensive alignment, right? Because Tennessee creates so much spaces, I would love to see him operate in a more condensed space, right? Meaning a traditional set, and then now the defense has more traditional alignments to you and how you operate off of that, right? Like, okay, cool. Like if you're playing an X and then you have a safety over top, you're facing double coverage. How do you beat that, right? Like if you're running a corner post, right? Like, do you understand how to properly hit the rocker step at the top and then cross face and then run it vertical for the post route? Just different things like that. Unfortunately, and that's why I say it ties into Jamal McCoy, is that we won't see it, right? Like it's a done deal now. The hay is in the barn. And so what the part that concerns you is that you haven't seen it. But I will say with Chris, I'm optimistic that he can do it, right? Because I've seen flashes of things that can tie into or maybe correlates to that. I just haven't seen him fully flush out and do it. If that makes sense.
100%. No, that makes perfect sense. Because I mean, just for from the analytics standpoint, he spent 2 years at Tennessee. Before that, he was at Tulane. In 2023, he caught 44 receptions for 711 yards and 5 touchdowns. He averaged over 16 yards per catch. He got into Tennessee in 2024, and he only caught 29 of his 59 targets for 300 yards. You know what I mean? And 2 touchdowns. And then this year we had the breakout season, but then at the same time, it was only a little over 1,000 yards. We've never seen you really have the big wide receiver one volume that we like to see from receivers, to see how does that translate when you're the one dealing with the coverages and all that type of stuff. You remember watching Marv and and Neighbors, and he was like, yo, like, yeah, we gotta limit these guys. Like every week you saw defenses shift their coverages to limit those guys.
Yeah, and to explain to our listeners who haven't really studied Tennessee's offense is so unique because they play basically at the top of the numbers, right? And what that does is forces the defenses to play very specific. Like they have to have a very specific alignment, which is very non-traditional to what the NFL does. So it's drafting, it's looking at Chris Brazell and trying to portray, because even just simple things like a slant route, right? And because of how Tennessee aligns, it forces the defensive backs, right, to play in a different alignment to where the slant route could be easily given because they're worried about giving up the vertical route or switch route, right? So they're playing off coverage. You're not going to get the true press man coverages, and that's something I want to see more from Chris because he is a taller, leaner guy, ability to beat press man consistently, right? Like, and I always talk about the 3rd and 5 slant route. Can you win across the face, get across the face of the defensive back? You know it's coming. He knows it's coming. Everybody in the stadium knows the slant is coming. Can you win? And I think that's the thing. But those alignments that they faced just made it difficult to see on film. So their offense dictates what the defense does because they have to react to how they align.
And the crazy thing is, Keith, looking at it, I'm looking at his route tree in terms of percentages. Only 7% of his routes were slants. Like, so that kind of plays right into what you're talking about. Only 7% of his routes were slants. And I'll take it a step further for me, Keith, when I look at his game, because I love this player. I love his upside and the tools and everything. And again, he's more savvy and nuanced as a route runner. Once he gets into his stem, than people want to give him credit for. They just look at the helmet and try to helmet scout. No, he can actually run routes, as we talked about. One thing I want to see him improve, a couple things. His play strength. Like you mentioned, like, can we bulk you up to 205, 210?
Yeah, 210. Yeah.
Like he's a little bit of a rail. He's kind of rail thin a little bit. He's listed at 6'4", 198, 200 pounds. But you look at the body type and you see a slender wide receiver, Keith. Like he's slim. And one thing I noticed is, like, when I was watching him versus Devin Moore, when Florida allowed Devin Moore to press Chris Brazell, he was able to nullify him and neutralize him at times. Like shoot his hands, play physical, play with strength, and limit his ability. Now, Devin Moore, for those who don't know, Devin Moore ran a 4.5 at the combine. Chris Brazell ran a 4.37. So you're assuming, hey, 6'4", Devin Moore 6'3", Chris Brazell 6'4", he's got the clear speed advantage. He tried to run a post route. and it didn't really matter. Devin Moore was stride for stride with him. Why, Keith? Because he was harassing him early in the rep with his physicality. So to run that slant, it's not just even about, like we always talk about the footwork and like you're gonna have to knock a guy hands down to get to the slant. You know what I mean? If they're in press coverage. So I want to see him get better with that. He's got some focus drops that I want to see him clean up. And then the one thing with his body type, Keith, with his body type, and I'm looking at mock draft right now. They have him as a arm length was 32 3/8. He has an 80 1/8 wingspan. So in terms of percentile, his wingspan 92nd percentile. He's got a good wingspan. He doesn't. Oh, you tell me if you disagree. He doesn't always utilize that to me. Like when he's going up for the ball, he's going up with the intention of letting it drop into his pads instead of high pointing it and using that full wingspan to truly moss a guy at the top of at the catch point.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and that's why we'll discuss it a little bit more in the next segment, right? Initially drafting him probably more your wide receiver 2 than your wide receiver 1 because of the concerns that we just listed out in the segment. But DP, let's get to this, man. Let's go ahead and drop the grade. What is the draft grades that we have for Chris Brazell, and what are some NFL comps that we have for him? Let's talk about that coming up next.
Welcome to the 5-hour energy flavor draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like confetti craze, fruity rainbow, or cotton candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got my number 1 pick for the 5-hour energy flavor draft. Guys, I've been going with the old reliable, the grape, that Concord grape flavor similar to grape juice or candy with the soft, rounded sweetness and that smooth, almost syrupy-like fruit profile and that consistent, straightforward taste. But I'm going to tell you what I have jumped to is the cherry, that bold cherry candy style flavor, sweet with the light tart edge, that classic red fruit profile with bright, punchy taste added, and a smooth and easy to recognize, clean, slightly tangy finish. That's what I've been jumping into, and that is my number 1 pick. And with 5-hour energy shots, they give you a boost with 0 sugar, guys. So find your new favorite flavor of 5-hour energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day, and thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the number 1 sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you. Chris Brazell II, guys. We're going to break down our grades and our comps, and then see if we got some time to talk about a team, maybe in the first round that makes sense. Keith, what's your grade for him, and what's your comp?
Yeah, so I gave him an 84, which is a second-round grade, and that's balancing out all of the physical tools, that's balancing out the film, plus the concerns, right? The extending his hands to be able to catch the football, the route running, plus the things that we said that we just needed to see because he was in Tennessee offense. So that's a second-round grade, a high second-round grade. He's and like we said, every single year, there's not 32 first-round draft picks. So there are going to be guys that have second-round grades that get drafted in the first round. I can foresee him being one of those guys, right? If and I know the New England Patriots signed Romeo Doubs, but if you still want to take another swing at a wide receiver, right? Like some of those teams that's at the back end of the first round that, the Buffalo Bills, like what are they, I know they got DJ Moore, but are they done with the Keon Coleman experiment all the way? And do they want to bring in a young, explosive guy to match with DJ Moore? So there are teams at the back end of the first round, I think, if they're looking at second-round picks and saying, man, I can take a shot on this explosive wide receiver, especially because we've seen this story play out time and time again, right? The New England Patriots with Tyquan Thornton, they drafted him way higher than what he was projected. Darius Hayward-Bay, right? Like just all of these different wide receivers. You run a fast 40 time, teams are going to want to select you fairly high because, they like they say, right? Speed kills at the end of the day. Comp was difficult. And this is why this young man may go high. It is very difficult to find a 6'4" wide receiver that runs a 4.3. So
facts.
Like there's not many at all, right? And yeah, there's not many of them. And so the guy I went with is a guy that's off the beaten path. None of our listeners are probably gonna think of him. Martavis Bryant. And the reason you shaking your head, DP, I wonder if that's because that's who you was going with. That
Hey, like that, like the famous meme, just tap the brain.
You know what they say, great minds think alike, and I'm not surprised. We
Absolutely.
talk about draft stuff all the time.
For
So
3
I'm not
years
surprised
now.
we thought similar on this. But I'm gonna go with Martavis Bryant and go with what he could have been, right? And those documentaries, and I forgot what's the specific name of them,
30
but they
for
always
30s.
yeah, like the 30 for 30s and like, what a
Yeah.
player should have been or what happened to that guy, like those type of segments and things like that. He has to go in there. And I put him right up there with the wide receiver from Baylor, Josh
Gordon.
Josh Gordon, right?
Yep.
Those physically dominant guys that had special physical traits, right? That if whatever the path, could have been, they could have been one of the best in the NFL during that period of time. And I think with Martavis Bryant, it was such a flash in the pan, right? But man, you talking about 6'4", this guy was explosive. And in the Pittsburgh Steelers drafting wide receivers during that era, I think this was who they had there. I think they had Wallace, right, out of Ole Miss.
Yeah.
The emergence of Antonio Brown, Emmanuel Sanders. And I know I'm missing like 3 other guys. Like it was ridiculous. But this young man,
Wow.
he was the 6'4" vertical pusher that was like, wait, this dude could be really special. Because there's nothing you can do about him. And like I said, trying to find other comps, like T. Higgins sits at the 6'3", but he's not as fast, right? Like you're just trying to find other. T-Tor McMillan is not as fast. Like, so you're trying to find that combination of height and speed. I think Martavis Bryant might have been the last guy we've seen that we thought could like really, really play football, play the wide receiver position at a high level.
No, and that is exactly. I mean, you go to my scout report at Bleacher Report. That's the comp I had for him when I did it. I was like, because again, to your point, Keith, it's not easy finding guys that are built like this, that run that fast, and you look at it, Keith. So for I got mock draftable pulled up. Now we had Chris Brazell, 6'4", 198 at the combine, 80 and 1/8 on the wingspan, 32 and 3/8 on the arm, 9 inches on the hand. He ran a 10-yard split of 1.52 with a 4.37 40. Martavis Bryant, 6'3" and a half, 211 pounds, 32 5/8 on the arm length, 9.5-inch hands. His 10-yard split was a 1.53. He ran a 4.42. I think he had a broad jump of maybe 12. He actually did the 3-cone and short shuttle, 4.15 for the short shuttle, 7.18 in the 3-cone. He had 16 inches on the 16 reps on the bench. He had 39-inch vertical. So when you said there was nothing you could do with Martavis Bryant, there was absolutely nothing you could do with Martavis. He literally had the frame, the explosiveness, the skill set to be a top 10 wide receiver, potentially top 5 if he fully developed and everything. So yeah, that was my comp because he ran good routes and everything. The speed was there, the ball skills were there, the leaping ability was there. He even added a little bit more muscle to his frame once he got into the NFL to deal with press man coverage. And you saw him probably about year 2 or 3 kind of evolve where guys couldn't really get hands on, or even if you did, it wasn't as successful as it was as a rookie. And then you just see that stride just take like the top end speed and a 6'3", almost 6'4" stride just start to pull away from guys vertically on the outside. And again, he came in not as a 1 immediately, but he was developing into a guy that's like, you know what? Thinking about him long term with an Antonio Brown, or as long as the money worked out, you know what I mean? Once Antonio Brown was emerging, we're talking about one of the best duos in the league in terms of how they complemented one another. Antonio Brown being the volume guy, could do a little bit of everything. And then Martavis Bryant, the guy that was evolving and maturing his game, but he's got the elite speed and size and everything else. Yeah, Chris Brazell, I want to see him. I do want to see him add some, like I said, put on a little bit of weight, Keith. But I definitely think Martavis Bryant is in all realms a possibility for this young man, like to become what Martavis was supposed to become. Keith, I'm gonna throw out a team. And, maybe not a lot of teams in round 1. We'll see. Mm-hmm. There's one team at the back of round 1 that makes a ton of sense to me, and that's the New England Patriots. right? That's the Patriots. That team makes a ton. You have a big arm quarterback in Drake Maye who wants to unleash the deep ball. He wants to push the ball vertically. You drafted Kyle Williams last year. Can he step into that short and intermediate? Now, he's got more speed than Stephon Diggs right now, but did he learn enough from Stephon Diggs to step into that role as the route runner, pure separator, quick natural winner? You got Kayshon Boutte, who literally does everything for you, right? Catch vertical routes, short, intermediate, red zone threat. Kayshon just goes about his business and goes home. Takes care of everything, right? He's the kind of do-it-all guy for you. You got Hunter Henry as, I think, the tight end, Travion, and then big Ramondre Stevenson in the backfield. They're missing the guy that could play that X spot, right? And I don't think does he need to bulk up a little bit to be a pure X? Yeah, he does, right? Because to play X receiver, typically if you're gonna be tall, you gotta have a little bit of weight behind you. Gotta have a punch to you. And I want to see him add some more weight and some strength. But I think the Patriots make a ton of sense at 31, right? Like, could they go tackle? Sure. Could they get an impact wide receiver for year one? As a rookie to come in and gel with this young receiving core, with the team that runs the ball the way they do, with that physical mentality on offense with Mike Vrabel, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, and that's why I mentioned them, DP. I think in the last segment, just because I like the Romeo Doubs signing. I think it's an improvement,
Me too, yeah.
but I don't think they're a team that should be done with wide receiver, right? Like I think what game was it? The Super Bowl, right? In my opinion, was a clear indication that you don't have enough dudes yet, right? Like it seemed like they were still a year away from this roster, but y'all needed some more explosive playmakers, right? Like where are the guys that you just simply have to get the football in their hands and they can make a play? Because when you talk about good on good or great on great, then that just becomes imano, right? Like when you have two great teams, that comes down to great players making great plays, and you can see that the New Patriots just didn't have great players. I want to ask you real quick, because this is another NFL comp that gets thrown out a lot. Well, I've seen a couple times from Martavis Bryant, and that's why I thought you may have gone with this, was Christian Watson. How do you feel about that as an NFL comp?
I felt like Watson was stronger, and I think a little bit heavier coming out. Yeah. We saw him in person at the Senior Bowl. I felt like Watson played the ball with more aggression, going up and high pointing, using his full frame and arm length and wingspan. But I think the role that Watson played early on in his career when he got to Green Bay, Romeo Doubs was there, stuff like that. What did they use Watson for? Take the top off, go routes, post routes. They even start integrating the deep over routes and letting him be able to throwing them to avoid catch and run, and now letting him take the ball up the sideline or up the hash right off the catch. I think you can do those similar things with the Chris Brazell as well. So I don't hate that comp at all. It's in terms of role, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I think movement wise, they're a little bit different, but I agree.
I think Braz was a better route runner than he was coming out.
Yeah, yep. And Christian Watson maybe a little bit stronger, right? Like he seemed like a little bit more sturdy in the run after the catch situation. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast all by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at the Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, where you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Coming up on tomorrow's show, guys, we're breaking down Dylan Thieneman, the safety from Oregon. We're going to bring that to you on Friday's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.